All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lasting Learning Podcast. Super glad that you are here today. And in a second, you're going to be pumped that you're here too when you find out who I've got on. I've got, well, to be honest, my first ever guest from New Mexico, which is crazy because New Mexico is an amazing place. I mean, I haven't been there in 30 years, but I know it's phenomenal and it's got a lot of amazing things going for it. Got a guy who a lot of you know from social media because, well, he's ripped to shreds. He's always working out. He is always leaning into kids. He is truly one of the nicest, kindest, just most amazing people that you will find on the internet today. But he is a real, genuine person. He's a leader, a lover of kids, a lover of life, just an amazing, amazing guy. And I am so glad to have him on. Today, we've got Eli Casaus joining us. Eli, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I think my head just swelled like 13 sizes.
Well, it's all legit, man. I only bring people onto this show that I truly admire and people that I want to try to learn from. So I appreciate you finding time. Literally, I appreciate that you allowed me to interrupt your workout so that we could talk. I mean, that's as real as it gets right there. But I appreciate it.
I don't know about that. It might have just been more like my scatterbrainness again and not abiding by my schedule.
Whatever it is, man. Eli, there might be a couple people out there that don't know who you are, other than what I just said. Do you mind just taking a couple minutes and giving us a quick rundown on who you are?
Sure. Like I said, I'm Eli Casaus. I was born and raised in a small town south of Albuquerque here in New Mexico. Grew up in my small town where I'm pretty rooted. Everybody kind of knows everybody around here. Kind of always wanted to be a teacher growing up. And as time went on, I tried to fight it actually when I first went to college. I didn't want to go into education. My mom's an educator and she always kind of was like, don't follow my footsteps. And I didn't want to be poor. So I kind of tried to fight it. I studied sports medicine originally. In college, I started subbing and it became pretty clear that was my calling. And so changed my major, became a teacher. I taught elementary and middle school, also taught PE for a while. And then principalship kind of landed in my lap. And I skipped the AP world and went straight into being a principal. And I've been a principal for I'm wrapping up 3 years of principalship right now. So
it's amazing. It's a cool story. So New Mexico, you say a small town in New Mexico. Isn't every town in New Mexico a small town?
Pretty much, except for our two big cities of Albuquerque and Las Cruces, which Albuquerque is where I'm a principal at. And I was a principal in Las Cruces at one point too.
So describe Albuquerque for those people that have never been there. When it's big city, is it big city? Is it urban? Is it...
It's the biggest small town you'll ever be in.
There you go.
So it's got a pretty big population, but everybody knows everybody and everybody's connected somehow.
Gotcha.
It's one of the unique things about New Mexico that kind of makes it special.
That's amazing. So you said that you fell into the principalship, and we'll talk about that in a minute. It kind of sounds like you fell into teaching as well. You tried to avoid it. You tried to resist it to the best of your ability, but something about it sucked you in. What was it about teaching that you said, I've got to do it?
That first day of subbing, it just was like, I just want to influence kids, and it's just that feel good, fuzzy feeling inside of this is what I'm meant to do. This is it. And being honest, I'm not the most self-confident guy. And so for me to walk out and be like, hey, I'm pretty good at this, probably played into it a little bit too. But again, going back to that deep desire of, when I was growing up, I used to play school. This chalkboard behind me was actually mine as a kid. I used to play school with. So it's always been kind of rooted in me.
So let's talk about that chalkboard behind you. For those people that are just listening, he's got a chalkboard behind him, and at the top, first of all, it's got his Twitter handle at Mr. Coach Eli. Let's talk through that for a second. So at Mr. Coach Eli, it's pretty much got all of your identity right there in one tagline. Talk through the Coach Eli and that mindset and that part of who you are.
So the coach piece kind of symbolizes a variety of different pieces. I'm pretty into sports, and I was a PE teacher for a while, and I've coached some youth basketball and baseball at one point. for my nephew, and that kind of that was part of it. The other part is because the heart of what I really love about my job as a principal is the coaching aspect. I love being the instructional leader on my campus. And I think that this year has been kind of the biggest learning, like the most I've enjoyed my principalship, because it was a really hard thing, but because of budgets, we cut instructional coaches in our district this school year. And so that's a huge loss to a school, but it did kind of give me, it kind of created that need of that instructional coaching position and that part of aspect of my job. And so there's that piece of it too, because really what I just want to be is that relentless cheerleader for my staff. And so how do I coach people up? And that coaching piece is a huge part of my identity and my philosophical beliefs of my role in a school and what I enjoy.
And I think being a cheerleader at times conflicts with being a coach. And I say that in this way. So I picture cheerleaders during a football game, for example. The home team could be losing 50-0, but those cheerleaders are still on the sideline cheering and trying to tell everybody it's going to be okay. We've got this. All is going to be good. But that coach is on the sideline sometimes in his players' faces saying, no, here's what we've got to do better. Here's how next week is going to look different than this week. So how does being a coach and a cheerleader kind of marry in your world? I mean, is it hard at times to be that coach that is constantly striving for improvements? I know that's what you strive for in your personal life. You're constantly looking to get better, and you want your teachers and your staff and your students to get better, but you also want to support them throughout all the adversity.
You're going to push my thinking. You're going to chomp my thinking.
Boom, here we go.
So I think that's part of that relentless piece that I put before that, because, you have to do it relentlessly. And sometimes that means in your face. And so I think that kind of embodies part of who I am as well. And that I really like the genuine piece, the real piece. And so, that kind of just goes with that coaching aspect. I think that, that coach does serve those roles that you just talked about. And I can still be your cheerleader while being very real with you. But that just goes back to another piece of who I am and what I believe in, that's relationships matter. And so the only way that I can truly be that good coach and still find that balance of being the cheerleader is if I have a relationship with the person I'm trying to coach. That's the only way it's going to be effective. And so I guess it goes back to balance for me.
Oh, that's good. It makes total sense. I'm wondering, I'm going to play into some stereotypes, if that's okay. I find it interesting. One of the things that you said early on is that at times you question, or you have self-confidence struggles, or you're not the most confident guy around, which I would never know that about you unless I read deeper into some of your social media posts. I mean, you strike me as this guy that's got tremendous confidence, but you're not arrogant. You seem like you're a person that's comfortable in your own skin. You know who you are. But I know that you're a male as a leader in an elementary school with a background in PE, and you're trying to be an instructional leader at the same time. Do you ever get people that say things explicitly or implicitly and say, first of all, you're a guy in an elementary school? That's weird. And I say this as a guy that used to be a principal of an elementary school. Or you're an instructional leader, but all you used to teach was PE. I mean, do you ever hear any of that stuff? And if so, how does that play with your self-confidence?
I do. I don't hear a lot about the PE aspect because I only taught PE for 1 year, whereas I was a classroom teacher for a lot longer.
Gotcha.
So I don't hear that aspect quite as much. It actually tends to vote in my favor when I'm trying to support a specials teacher, because I understand both worlds.
Yeah, street cred, yeah.
But the guy in an elementary setting, I get that a lot. And probably more so because I'm a pretty direct person. And so sometimes I forget that I need to take that step back and I need to kind of just take that step back and to think about perception. It's definitely something that I have to work on and be very intentional and mindful of. That kind of feeds into that stereotype, I think.
But it's interesting that you say that, because again, I'm gonna make this personal about me. So feel free to just tune this out for a second. But I'm a guy that I think a lot of people on the outside, or people that I work with, will say that I'm a guy that has a lot of confidence. and some would say that I'm very direct, and I cut to it and cut through it. But on the inside, I question and I doubt myself a ton. I'm always wondering if I'm doing what's right and doing what's best, and which is why I think I push so hard, which is why I try to just be very real and very direct, because I want to get the absolute best out of people. But I sometimes do it, and I lack the subtleties. I lack the soft, caring piece that I believe in and that I want to try to present to so many people. And it's like this vicious cycle. The harder I push, the more that they try to stay away, and the more I lean in. And it's like we're doing this weird dance. Is that just me, or is that something that you have experienced too?
No, you hit the nail like right on the head. Like that was it was like I was speaking those words. I think like right now with this, the school closures with COVID, I think that it's really brought a lot of that to the forefront to me and kind of given me that perspective check. Before this, I was questioning a lot of things, a lot of my decisions, a lot of, how I was being perceived in my school community and by my staff. And I think that it's kind of helped soften me a little bit and really think about that perception and how I can improve as well. So
Well, I'm glad it's not just me. I mean, misery loves company. I mean, I'm not necessarily glad that you have those internal battles too, but I also found myself at times, sometimes it was easier for me to persuade and influence people that I did not have a personal relationship with. Like it would be easier to have connections with people on social media or that live on the other side of the country who didn't necessarily know my real world. And I could ask those questions to them because I didn't have to see them roll their eyes or start to wonder, what do they really think about me? I was able to just be real and genuine, and in a way almost have better relationships with people that there was a distance with. I see you're smiling. Am I striking
no,
a nerve with you on that one as well?
yeah, you are for
so,
sure.
so talk to me. I know that you're very well connected in social media. How does that influence you? What is the role that social media has in your world? Do you see yourself as an influencer, or are you constantly being influenced?
I I don't think I see myself as an influencer. I think that's always kind of the goal because I want to share out my learning and things that I'm doing and the great things going on in my school. But I truly became connected because I wanted to learn. When I first got onto social media, I was a classroom teacher and I was an admin intern. Well, actually, let me back up. The first reason I got on social media as a teacher was because as a teacher, I hated talking to parents. It was like my least favorite part of the job. And so I created my Twitter and my Instagram so I could share out the things that were going on in the classroom because I was trying to just be proactive. And if I could put it all out there, I didn't have to talk to parents as much. And that kind of started to evolve as I learned about Twitter chats, and I started finding some books out there that were engaging to me and starting to make those connections and learning from other people. So now my whole goal is really, I like to share with the hope that I'm going to influence somebody, but it's definitely me being influenced. And those connections really have been far and wide. And it's kind of crazy. I've made some people I've made friends with some people that I otherwise would never have. And I never imagined some of those connections would be what they are. It's just at all different levels. It's kind of crazy how some of them have taken off.
It is crazy, and I've watched kind of your journey over the last few years, and I've seen some of those people that it's more than just a social media connection. I mean, it's like it's a brotherhood, or it's a family that has formed from what has blossomed through a phone and a computer screen, and it's super powerful because those are the things I look at, and I look at you and I say, man, that's what I want. Yeah, I want to be able to work out 24/7 like you do. Yeah. I want to be able to go down to Disney World and flex next to the characters and put them to shame. I want that. But what I want more than that is I want to be able to make some real connections like you have, beyond just 280 characters, beyond an Instagram post. Make some connections that truly last beyond just the screen. how do you think those relationships have grown? Because they're real. I mean, it's not just tagging and liking, they're real connections. What has been that secret sauce?
Putting the real in the relationship, has really been, if it's not a secret, but I guess it's the secret ingredient, and that some are often missing. But while I put the great things out there, I try to be real and share my struggles too, because that's what's meaningful, and that's what I learn from and I grow from, are my struggles. And so, being able to share in the happiness, but also the real of life. A couple of my connections come to mind right away. I'm in a Voxer group. We call ourselves the Sandbox, out of our, uh, we initially were like created our little group. We were all just connected through Twitter originally. And we daily check in with each other and kind of share our celebrations, but our struggles. And um, now now that we're in closure, we're doing a weekly virtual hangout. So we're connecting on an even more deep level, but we share our celebrations and our struggles with our work as young leaders and what we faced as first year admin together, all over the country. There's 5 of us in the group, and it evolved over time in sharing our lives with each other. And so sharing as we've all started families or gotten married or different life struggles. Other connections that come to mind are with Brandy Miller. She's somebody who has been very real, and we've done a lot of life together. We were connected on Twitter for a while, and then I happened to be in the Orlando area for the Kagan Summer Academy, and I was connected with a lot of teachers at Caldwell Elementary out there, and we met up for lunch, and our those connections were a little deeper because then they became real. But then that continued to evolve with Brandy, and it led to a more friendship on a deeper level, and then evolved into a more personal relationship from there. And so it's kind of crazy. I never would have imagined anything like that ever happening. But I think that it's because we've had to be very real with each other, and we've been through some real things in life. From she was somebody I met on Twitter and talked education, to evolving into dealing with her mom's cancer treatments, and me losing my niece as a stillborn, and just going through life and just being very real. I think I guess that's the long drawn out answer of the real in the relationships was the secret.
I mean, I love, so I've probably asked you a dozen questions so far, and I love the fact that when I said, what's the secret sauce? And you just went on about being real, and that was the longest answer. And I think that is so real. I think that's perfect, because that resonates with what your heart is and where our hearts should be. I think like social media and what you just described is really a metaphor for classrooms. There are so many teachers, so many of us that feel like our job is just to be the curators of content. In social media, we just have to put out ideas. We just have to put out topics. We just have to make something that's tweet worthy. And then there are those other people that say, no, my job is to be real and to form relationships and to use this to make connections. And in the classroom, that's the ultimate goal. You make all these connections, you can do life with people, and then you can start to learn alongside somebody. You don't have to preach to people to learn with somebody. And your story about Brandy, I absolutely love it, because it's going to sound totally creeperish, but that's a relationship I have watched via social media for a couple of years now. Like Brandy, I don't even know if she would remember this or not, but it must have been 4 years ago now. I was a principal down in Florida at an elementary school, and she reached out to me to do a global collaboration with one of the classrooms that I was with. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And then I saw you guys connecting. I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But I love that it's formed into what it is right now. And just watching you individually and her individually grow together and to be able to lean into each other through life's good times and bad times, it's absolutely amazing. It's amazing. I love it. I love it, love it, love it on so many levels. So thanks for letting me be a little creeper into your world. But it's pretty cool to watch. And I love that you share it with all of us and that you just told that story just now. So, I alluded to what I feel like is your personal passion, which is this realness and your ability to be transparent and vulnerable. I can only assume, because I've found a lot of connections between the two of us already, that it hasn't always been that way. Has it always been so easy for you to just be open and say, here's who I really am and here's my vulnerabilities?
No, definitely not. Especially because I get inside my head so much.
Yeah. Because you think everybody else is inside there too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that the self doubt comes in, and those kinds of things. I'm from a big family. I have a big family. My dad's one of 14. My mom's one of 7.
Oh.
Everybody has a ton of kids, and if you've ever watched the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, that's like a glimpse into my family. So there's always, they always do it with love, but there's always some criticism there. And so, and also just being from a small town where everybody's connected, it was never, coming out of my shell was not something that it was easy for me. And I don't think I really started to embrace that until probably college, and even more so not until my first year out of college when I moved to Phoenix. I went through a breakup, and I was like, you know what? I'm graduating college. Teaching jobs are kind of short and are few and far between in New Mexico. And I went to a job fair, and I was recruited to go teach at a brand new K-8 school in the Phoenix area. I took this job without ever even visiting there, picked an apartment based on just online. And I moved somewhere where I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a single person. And so that kind of helped bring me out of my shell and be able to say, you know what, this is who I am. And that kind of helped, but it's definitely something I still struggle with to this day. But at the end of the day, I just try to make that be kind of a goal and remember that that genuine realness is something that's really important to me. And so that's why I
Do you
try
feel like
to.
who you are and the person you're portraying is the person that you've always been and you just kept it closed off, or has it grown into somebody different?
I think it's definitely something that the roots of it all have always been there, but definitely something that has had to evolve over time, and having to figure out who I am, but also accepting that people evolve throughout life if they're doing it right.
Mm.
And so accepting that I'm an evolving person and finding out new things about myself every day is a part of it.
Has your I'm going to use the term mental, but has your mental evolution, your self-worth, your self-confidence, has that paralleled the trajectory of your physical transformation as well? Do those go hand in hand?
Um, you would think I would say yes,
Yeah,
but
that's the easy answer, right?
I don't, yeah, but truthfully, I don't know because, I think my physical appearance has always been something I've been self-conscious about. I'm about to blow everybody's mind because people a lot of times see pictures and they think I'm tall, but I'm actually really short. I'm 5'5", 5'6" on a good day. And so I grew up being a pretty, on top of being short, I was pretty skinny. And so that physical transformation is something that, I found passion in fitness. I'm definitely not as jacked as you maybe sound to be, but I did all that to try to help boost my self-esteem, but also just because I found that passion in it. But I think that I equally get inside my head and I'm still self-conscious about it. There's that body dysmorphia that's always going to be there.
Right.
So I don't know if that's kind of what you were
No,
getting at,
it
but
is. It's like you've got this constant quest to always get better and improve and to grow, and um, doing it for different reasons at different times. I get that. When will you know when you've got it, whatever it is? And it could be mentally, physically, professionally. What is it that you're striving for?
honestly, I don't think that I'll ever get there because to me, I always want to be better.
Mm.
I always want to be the best principal I can be. I always want to be the best teacher I can be. I always want to be the best athlete I can be. I always want to be the best friend, the best brother, the best son, the best at anything that is laid on my plate. So I guess I always have that hunger to be better. So I don't know that I'll ever get there, but as long as I know that I'm being true to who I am, and I'm trying my best to just be myself through it all, and give my best, then I guess that's when I know I've got it.
Do you
If that
think other
makes
people understand that? Because again, I'm hearing what you're putting down right now, man, and it's resonating with me. But I hear other people that will push back at me and say, Dave, just slow your roll, man. Just be content. It's good enough. Whether it's teachers that I work with and try to grow, they'll say it's good enough. Or just that professional ambition to always want to do more. Or I run, but I mean I'm not a marathon champion or anything like that. But I always want to go and put more miles in the logbook. And people say just sit and relax and be content. But I can't. It's not in my DNA. I can't, and I have a hard time understanding how other people can too. Do, do you have that struggle?
Definitely. And I tend to say, oh, it's my ADHD.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or, I remember my fourth grade, our class motto. I remember the poster hanging on the wall, and it said, "Good, better, best, never, never rest until my good is better and my better is my best." And
yeah.
that's kind of always stuck with me into the back of my mind too. But yeah, no, I'm always looking for something more. I'm always looking to go that next step, that one more rep.
Now, who do you look to out in the world or in your immediate circle, wherever they might be, to say that's what I want? I want to have that of that person, or maybe it's the whole package.
Oh, wow, that's a hard question. You know, I'm connected with so many amazing people. Um, there's like both virtually and in my real life, and I look up to so many different people. And I think that I'm always just trying to find that balance of if I can attain and emulate some of what this person stands for, what this person does. I can think of professionally speaking, I had an amazing principal and assistant principal in the final school I taught at and that I interned under. And they just had so much respect from every staff member that worked with them and people across the district and our kids that we served in our community we served. And, that at the heart of every decision they made and everything they did, it was because that was what was best for kids. And so, I always want to strive to be like them, and have that. The associate superintendent that hired me for my first principal job, he saw something in me in an interview, and I ended up at a different school because he believed in me, and watching his leadership as an associate. I look up to Dr. Gonzalez in a lot of different ways and aspire to be like him as a leader. Um, there's teachers I've worked with that if I could just be half the teacher they are, I'd be happy. There are virtual connections that I have that I'm like, man, if I could emulate half of what they put out, I'm good.
Yeah. I appreciate that realness again, because I think it's important for people to recognize um, that even people that we see online and social media, that truly you are an influencer, you influence me, you inspire me, are constantly working through something to try to improve and to get better. But there's also this balancing act that we have to deal with on a daily basis, where we're trying to be true to who we are and excel in our strengths without just chasing trying to be that other person. And I know that teachers struggle with this in a very real way as well, whether it's going online to Pinterest and Teacher Pay Teacher and seeing that perfect outline, that perfect lesson, and they say, I want that in my classroom too. And they sacrifice who they are, their passions, their strengths to try to be somebody else. So, I appreciate all that you've shared so far about who you are, your strength, your evolution, to get this quest to grow and to use what you're learning from different people to become this ultimate version of you, like this superhero. That's truly what I picture you. I picture you in like 10 years, you're on a stage somewhere with a cape flowing and people are just cheering you on because you're killing it and inspiring millions and millions and millions of people, whether it's in education or around the world, to reach their fullest potential in whatever walk of life that might be, whether it's education or not, because I really feel like that's you. It's not just about education. It's not just teaching and learning. It's living your best life, being the best version of you that you can be. I mean, do you feel like you are a better version of yourself today than you were 5 or 10 years ago?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
And why? I mean, what is the secret ingredient that has helped you continue to push? Is it having other people that push you and inspire you, or just your constant quest internally?
I think it goes back to that balance again, and the balance of the two. I think that it's important that I'm surrounding myself with the right people. And I think that that's something that's definitely had to evolve over the last 5 years. Was finally getting comfortable in my skin, professionally and personally, and maintaining that balance in my circles, and and allowing people to influence me, but still staying true to myself. Um, and just finding that balance. And I think that that's really the evolution that's happened over the last 5 years.
That's awesome. It's been amazing to watch. I can't wait to watch it for the next 5 years. Or that I'm going to be blocked now that you're like, man, he is a creeper. He's going to have to find another way to distract him. No, you're absolutely killing life, man. And I appreciate it. I mean, we've covered a lot right now. We've covered your personal life. We've covered your professional life. We've covered your childhood. We've covered a ton right now. But I'm wondering if you had to wrap it all up and say, but here's what I want people to focus on. I call it the mic drop moment in these interviews, but that thing where if people are going to remember Eli and they're going to remember Eli's story, this is what they need to pick up. This is the thing that you want them to walk away with. Do you have that thing that you say, don't forget this?
Well, I mean, first off, I'm just going to say that, this was a great therapy session. I feel like you might need to send me a bill, but I think that it all goes back to that balance again, and just that whole be real, be kind, and be you thing.
Yeah.
I often use the hashtag of real connections. And that's kind of something that Brandy and I have always kind of joked about. Like if I was going to write a book, that's what it would be about.
Not if, when.
I don't know if that's in my, I don't know. Yeah, you're probably right. So when I write a book, that's what it would kind of be about. It's just that whole real connection and being genuinely you, while being kind, and that constant evolution to be your best person, and try to influence others while recognizing and balancing that influence that they have on you, and just continuously growing and trying to live your best life. I think that you kind of hit that nail on the head in a lot of ways in this conversation. It was like we were sharing a brain at times.
I was just listening to what you were picking up, man. And you told some powerful stories in this that really resonated with me. And I'm sure they're going to resonate with other people as well. So I appreciate that. I'm going to have all of your contact info in the show notes, both whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening on the podcast. But can you just tell people where they can connect with you if they want to continue to hear you or watch your story evolve?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, at Mr. Coach Eli. I also have a Facebook page, but I don't really use it very often. But same handle though. Pretty much any social media you can find me on with that handle.
There you go. So look him up. It's awesome. He will inspire you to work harder, to go harder, just to be better, but also to just be comfortable being you. So Eli, I appreciate you letting me interrupt your workout today. I appreciate you just sitting down and connecting with me. I know you said it was like a therapy session for you. It was for me as well. So I appreciate it. How about we just wash our hands of it, and I owe you, you owe me, we're good to go. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to share with me and all the listeners, man. I appreciate it.
Well, the pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me and giving me an outlet to share some of my story.